Welcome back to the Office Freedom podcast, Flex with Richard Smith. In this episode, we are at WorkTech 2022 in London. I have the opportunity to do a case study with Suzan Dixon, the Regional Head of Workplace for Europe and the Americas, in terms of how Office Freedom represents Standard Chartered Bank in their flexible office transactions worldwide.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. WorkTech, myself and Suzan, we have a good history. 2019, I first met Suzan, and since then I've done about 7 WorkTechs all around UK and the US. So very familiar with the team, and they're always very supportive. I just said to Lily, I think this is round 6 or round 7. But yeah, it's a great way to talk about real estate. Suzan, I'll allow you to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, good morning. Yeah, good morning still. Suzan Dixon, I'm the Regional Head of Workplace for Europe and Americas at Standard Chartered Bank. Standard Chartered Bank is an emerging markets bank. We are based, we've got around 59 locations globally, and we have customers in over 150 countries. So that's a little bit history about Standard Chartered Bank. I have been engaged with WorkTech for a few years now. I did meet Richard back in 2019, and interestingly enough, when I met him and he told me about what Office Freedom does, I was like, okay, no time, But typically, right? I was extremely busy at the time, but it was more around Flex. Yes, we do a lot with Flex, but Richard was extremely consistent and persistent to try to make a case, at least to try it. So that's the history. Yeah. So that was 2019.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, I am the founder and CEO of Office Freedom, which is the world's first flexible office space broker. I was thinking last night about Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump was right. Life is like a box of chocolates. You just never know what you're going to get. And I didn't realize that from 19 to here, I'd be sitting with Suzan. I didn't realize that Saudi Arabia would beat Argentina 2-1 in the World Cup yesterday. And I didn't realize that from the humble beginnings of the serviced office industry, which was 1993 when I first set it up, it has evolved into this gargantuan flexible office space and workspace world. The evolution has been incredible. Our model used to be a bit of a matching service when we would put the client in direct contact with all the flex space providers. But after a while, we changed that because we didn't think it was the best customer experience for the client, and then we basically became like a single point of contact, and things got a bit crazy.
I mean, flex crazy pioneer, right?
Yeah. Why do they call me the flex crazy pioneer? Number one, I am a little bit crazy, but aren't we all a little bit in our own funny way? Number two, I'm crazy about flex because I've been doing it for 30 years, and next year we're 30. It's going to be an amazing party. If anybody wants to come, then please let me know because it's going to be a banger. But
sounds like everybody's invited already.
Yes, everyone is invited. So when we changed the model, we kind of started representing the client and negotiating the transaction. And it turned out that the better deal we would do for the client, the lower our fee would be. And we don't charge the client, they get a free service. They say the best things in life are free, and that's pretty much relevant here. We get paid by the flex provider, the WeWorks, the IWGs of this world. So theoretically, the better deal I do for the client, the lower our fee, which commercially some people would say, that's crazy. Why do you do that? We do it because the result of that is a happy client. And a happy client is a returning client. And that's exactly what's happened with myself and Suzan and Standard Chartered Bank. And we were talking the other day, and I said, you know what, I don't think people quite realise what we do. Yeah, we find office space, but we kind of also like to go that extra mile.
Totally, and extra mile, so I'm sure many of you guys work with flex providers. What we have is we do have a service provider that negotiates most of our deals. But what Office Freedom does is comes in as a broker. In terms of the extra mile, what we've experienced is different folds, right? So I think one of the things is we do have a personal service, which is, thank you very much, Richard. But what that means is, so we initially started off with San Fran as an example. We said, okay, we are trying to build a new space there. Do we have options? And we worked with Office Freedom. Richard got his team to fly into San Fran and scout the space with our colleagues in the US. We ended up with a solution, but we carried on from there. We've had few deals now, but every time we are setting up new spaces, we definitely work with Office Freedom to see what the options are, because it's not just working with one provider. You have the various different options. You get to actually, in terms of a clear match, it's a clear match. This is our requirement. So you're not going out to the market and really searching stuff yourself. Some can be really bad experiences. Had one in Paris. So it just comes to that very personal experience. What we also have experienced is, as a bank, we are quite stringent with our terms and conditions, what we'll agree with. But what Office Freedom does for us is, before it reaches our legal team, it's already reviewed and already red marked, this won't work, and those kind of things. Again, it helps smoothen out the process for us. So yeah, that definitely helped a lot. So we do have corporate rates generally with a lot of flex providers. Fortunately for us, Office Freedom negotiates it, so it's generally better than the corporate rates that we end up getting. So it's worked really well for us. So when we want to flex out, we do have that option. So we're not just with one provider, we have a variety.
Yeah. And it's something that we enjoy. We like, everyone wants to get job satisfaction, and we actually enjoy the process of negotiating and doing the T's and C's. And yeah, we built up 20,000 locations. So we've aggregated all of the different providers under one big umbrella. So it enables Standard Chartered Bank and other clients to cover the entire market with one contact. So if you could say maybe one reason which could help differentiate us from...
Sure. Just recently, and I think we are just closing out the deal, but we've renewed a contract with an office in Europe. And the interesting bit is, in today's day and age, we still managed to get, with a renewal, which is pretty unheard of, we got a 4-month rent-free period, and we also got nil increase on the rent. So that's not something we would normally get if we would go directly to negotiate.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Now, although I was the first broker in the early 90s, now every man and his dog is a flexible office broker. And fair play, everyone's got to ride the wave and take their commercial opportunities. But one thing that cannot be duplicated is 29 years. And that's exactly linked to what you just said. Because we have relationships with the providers. The provider we're talking about there, they were in our office recently. Actually, our global head of sales, Riham Habashi, was having a conversation with them, and we were basically just bonding. So we bond with all the providers, and that helps us when it comes to negotiating the deal for the clients. So that's something that we're proud of, and 4 months rent-free in year 2 and fixed rent was something we're very proud of. And yeah, that decimates our fee actually. But you know what, like I said before, I just couldn't care less, because global repeat business is what it's all about. So Suzan, quickly back to you. How are Standard Chartered Bank incorporating flex in your real estate portfolio?
So we've gone for, we have the hub and spoke model. So we have enabled employees with hybrid working. But what that means is we have the option to work from home, or work from the office, or near home. And that near home is your flex solution. So we've kind of really embraced flex working.
Yeah, okay. And the reason you're embracing flex working, a bit of a tongue twister that, is because it's gone through an enormous revolution. You would never be embracing flex 20 years ago, but it's gone through an incredible transformation. In the old days, people didn't know what it was, they didn't know what to call itself. It wasn't fit for purpose. Serviced offices was an old phrase. People had a reputation for those being a bit out of date and too expensive, and you would never walk in and think, wow. So that all changed. The pandemic has made people think flexible, agile, hybrid even more. Total occupancy cost, when you add it all up, it basically means that when you weigh up the financials, the flex solution is often more economical. IFRS 16, like before, I'm no lawyer. I go through terms and conditions, but I'm no lawyer. I pass them over to them. But I'm no accountant. But IFRS 16, I think, basically means that deals that are a year or under don't appear on the balance sheet as a liability.
It definitely helped us.
Yeah, which is a definite benefit of Flex. Now, size is massive. I mean, literally, there's no limit now. You can basically have one desk or 1,000 desks. This is what some clients don't quite appreciate. Flex is no longer a stepping stone into traditional leases. We can find you space of any size. If it's not existing in current inventory, we will have a Flex provider go and take the lease on the building for you and then do a back-to-back managed, customized solution incorporating fit-out. So it's a very viable alternative to leasing, not a stepping stone, and also 158% more carbon friendly than leasing, according to a recent research by Incendium Consulting. So the whole transition from lease to Flex has happened, and you know, some of the turning points, Regis, IWG deserve a lot of credit for placing it on the map. Originally, 3,300 locations now. TOG were the first ones, the office group, to have design-led offices, which made it wow as well as Flex. WeWork is at 2010. Look, I could talk to you for 2 days about WeWork and the story, but they also do deserve a lot of credit for helping it get to the next level. But really what happened is CBRE, an example, £200 million in Industrious, one of the Flex providers. I mean, wow. A Flex, a traditional agent, investing in a Flex provider. You've got all the traditional landlords like British Land, Crown Estate, Legal & General, Tishman Speyer in America. They've all got Flex arms now. This is unheard of. I mean, could you imagine that happening back in the day?
When the pandemic struck, I mean, we had excess space, right? So we literally emptied all the service to office space and brought people back in. That is what we got to. But it was quite interesting because just a point to make, with the dilapidation, we had some real struggle. And this is stuff that, you know, our service providers negotiated at that time. But now what we've seen with our terms and conditions, we iron it out thanks to you guys. But it's already clarified. We don't have issues where suddenly we have to take off the whole tech solutions and all the other excess that comes with it. But it was questionable, I think, for a while. It is definitely booming. We are definitely seeing the need for it. So we can flex out, especially when it's a new build and, you know, setting up new businesses.
Yeah, exactly. And this stat here, by 2000, that's actually a typo. I should say 2030. By 2030, Flex will account for ballpark 30% of the world's office space. I mean, now it's probably between 5 and 10%, and it was not so long ago, maybe 2%. So it's going in that northerly trajectory. And really, you know, that's it. That's a short and sweet presentation. I have to thank Suzan so much for doing this, because I know your time is very precious, and you've managed to fit this in, which is much appreciated. And for anybody else out there that wants office freedom to go the extra mile for you, we have a stand outside on that side. We're near where all the food and beverages are. We'd be happy to have a chat with you. Thanks, WorkTech. Thanks, Susan. I'll give you the last word, Suzan. What do you think of? How's this gone for you today?
I mean, again,
I was a bit nervous before, right?
Very. I was like, chill, it'll be all good.
Yeah.
But I think, again, when I say I'm not underplaying it, persistent, Richard was very persistent. I had no interest of trying it. It was definitely worth a try. It's given us much more options. So that's all I have to say within the Office Freedom Flex world. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. It was a real pleasure to be on stage with Suzan Dixon, the Regional Head of Workplace for Europe and the Americas at Standard Chartered Bank. We were talking all things flexible office space, how the industry has evolved. It's no longer a stepping stone to traditional leasing. It is now a viable alternative to traditional leasing. And bearing in mind there is no limit to the size of transaction that can happen, it is surely very interesting times for the industry. Join me next time on the Office Freedom podcast, Flex with Richard Smith.